If our beloved president give a speech to anywhere, you might see 30, 40 TV channels, press radios, all those newspapers and that, broadcast his speech live. I don't mean, obviously, newspapers, but radio channels and TV channels, 30, 40. I took trouble of counting all these ones, and I'm talking out of my own experience, okay? So that uh, uh, so that in autocratic regimes, um, people do not get independence news, so that public are usually manipulated. So we get a vicious cycle, okay? Uh, Everything is based on corruption. Everything is based on injustice. But autocratic regimes are very good at creating hallucinations, creating hypnotizing people, let's say, through propaganda. That is why most people are uh, in hypnosis, so they hardly follow intellectuals. They hardly follow believe. Let's say they hardly believe people with free mind, because government is pouring uh, um, all of its propaganda or people. Let's say mal propaganda, this propaganda uh, on people, but uh, someone they don't know with a right mind comes and tell them the truth. Sometimes it is harder to believe in truths than uh, obviously lies. So most people believe in lies. That is why while living in hell, most people think that they are living in heaven, and they might be thinking that Europeans must be envying their lifestyle. And I'm not joking. Those people believe in that Europeans, maybe some Americans are envying lifestyles of those ignorance living in oppressive regimes. This is all I'm going to say for now, Merjina.
I mean, this is truly, unbelievable. I think the international community, for example, these cases that are already been brought to the European Courts of Human Rights, and all these things that you're sharing with us is known by the international community. The suppression of voices, these the media that is being controlled, and the people who's not really, rising up against these injustices. Um, this is truly an important work for us. That's why we're doing this. But of course, you said that we should never lose hope. These people that are suffering, who are continue to suffer, should never lose hope. I'm just really concerned the effect, the consequences on the young people who's growing up, that they think it's normal. All this suffering is normal. This is not really good for the next generation. And I'm just hoping that there will be like some guiding forces that will, continue, that will connect these for the young generation, so that the suffering will not continue, and they will be complicit, or they will be there's complacency to keep fighting for justice. Like you said, they think that their life is good. But what kind of population are this, Dr. Varam? Are these the supporters of the regime, or these are also part of the victims the KHK victims?
Well, obviously, KHK victims are not supporters of this regime. That is why they are living a life of hell. Okay, let me remind our audience that KHK victims were lost their jobs in one day. It didn't end with just that. Then their property, many of them's property were confiscated. It didn't end that in there. Many of them were sent to prison. It didn't end in there. Then, at the same time, their families, their wives, daughters, sons, sometimes son-in-laws or daughter-in-laws were targeted. Well, these sort of persecution might be happening in Middle Ages, maybe, or in times of those inquisitions in Europe or in America. But in 21st century, uh, actually, some sort of implementations, persecutions, injustice occurred in Turkey that would make us pray to days of inquisitions. Yes, there is a word say that there are so much heavier injustice that you might be actually thanking if you had been in the period of inquisition, because even in times of inquisition, I mean, I'm not obviously approving what was happened. I'm not. No, I condemn all those things. But just to compare the events, I'm just telling or expressing to our audience. In times of inquisition, if somebody is accused of being witch, they were tortured, their property were confiscated, they were burned to death. Okay, but this wouldn't this actually injustice or persecution wouldn't go to their sons, daughters, daughter-in-laws, father-in-laws, mother-in-laws, fathers, mothers, parents, siblings, and that. But in Turkey, this happened to KHK victims. And I mean, I'm not telling this out of my mind or out of some sort of intelligence gathering information. No, these were happened in public. These were happened in law. I mean, in regulation. Okay, in regulation. So that what I am expressing, telling our audience, is in effect in law in Turkey. KHK victims are living hell in Turkey for the last 10 years with no ease. Okay, same laws, same implementation, same persecution is going on today. As I told our audience previously that these autocratic regimes feed on injustice so that they show those people who would like to rise against the injustice or persecution of this regime, they show KSK victims as examples that look, if you oppose our lovely regime, you will be ending up like those KSK victims. So not only yourself will be targeted, your family will be targeted. And this is actually, this is not done even in mafia. If I'm not wrong, even mafia bosses do not target especially women and children. But in Turkey, our beloved regime target uh, victims, wives, daughters, daughter-in-laws, plus obviously son-in-laws and sons descended. Well, this is happening even now, after 10 years of supposed to be coup that are done by academics, teachers, doctors, and engineers, if you believe. Okay? If you believe. Government, as I told you, run a special operation just to get this gigantic powers, uh, so that they can crush anybody in their way of corrupt regime, obviously. Then they accused teachers, academics, independent judges, more than soldiers. Okay, believe you me. You know who carries out coup d'etat, who must have carried out. But even I will say that according to my research, most of those soldiers who were portrayed to launch those coup d'etat were trapped soldiers. They were misled to some locations by being told that there was supposed to be a terror attack there, or there was some sort of military exercise there. They were sent to some location to support the government or to support policemen against terrorists, or some sort of, as I told, some sort of military giving support, or having a role played to a military exercise. And this was a normal activity for them anyway. You would support policemen, or any government department in case of emergency, like terrorist attack or big fires, earthquake, this and that. And soldiers thought that they will be giving support to these kind of activities. I'm telling you, 99% of the soldiers, 99% of the soldiers. Okay. Then when they went to there, they said, "Look, you are launching a coup d'etat against our beloved government, so that many of them got life imprisonment." And the most important of them is that, especially military students. I ask your viewers to watch a video shootage of 15th of July 2016 on the Bosporus Bridge. Okay, supposed to be soldiers that were actually blocking Bosporus bridge from public, supposed to be running a coup d'etat, were not soldiers. They were, I am telling your audience, they could be amazed as usual. They were not soldiers. They were high school students. Okay, but just to let you, they were high school military students, like any 16, 17, 18 years of your peers would go to school. Any high school. In Turkish, they are called lise. In French, I think. High school is called in English. Many other countries might be called a college descendant. They were college students. They were not soldiers. They were told that they will be giving support to policemen protecting the bridge from supposed to be ISIS ISIS terrorists. Many of them were told, okay, ISIS terrorists were supposed to launch let's say, sabotage attack on the Bosporus Bridge, so that these students were told to give support to the policemen, and then they were met with angry public, and if they they might have thought that those angry people would be or could be ISIS supporters. They didn't know that anyway, but 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 they didn't know that they would be put in conflict with public. They didn't know it. They thought that they would be giving support to policemen, but there was no policeman. Yeah? They were shot at by sharpshooters that were placed around the bridge. Guess by whom? You just guess by whom, okay? But they were shot at, and they were expected to shoot back. But who would they shoot back? You guess. They didn't see those sharpshooters were firing at them. Probably those people are quite skillful, hiding themselves. They would probably fire back at the people that were in front of them, but they didn't do it. Despite that, those college students were imprisoned for life. So, what good news do you expect from us, oh free population of the world? I will say, please be careful not to bring in autocratic politicians uh, into the government, into head of state. Please, I thank you for now.
So I would like to say to the families of the young military students and cadets in prison right now, please continue your strong support for your families, for those young people, and supporting each other, and don't give up, because the world know and eventually will know and understand the false flag operation that happened in July 15 is actually an Erdoğan soft coup, and he is the only one in his regime responsible for it, and he will pay for his crimes. So we know now that there are so many people in prison. There are babies in prison. There are torture that is happening, and all the grave injustices inflicted upon innocent people. This is not a problem of one country, or this is not a problem of one person or just the victims. This is a problem of the world. We have responsibility to step up and help the most vulnerable members of our societies.